professional loser Kari Lake has lost again. Now, this is in another bid to try to steal the governorship of Arizona from Katie Hobbs, who is the current and rightful governor of Arizona. So now on Wednesday, the former Republican gubernatorial candidate lost her bid for the seat after the Arizona Supreme Court decided to strike down the majority of her appeal. So now that's very important because it turns out there is one thing that the Supreme Court was like, I don't know. I guess we'll revisit that. So let's get to the details. Maricopa County Superior Judge Peter Thompson rejected the claim that Kari Lake was the rightful governor and also rejected her claim to have a redo election, which to me doesn't really make sense. You want a redo election. If you want to redo, why don't you just run in the next election? That would make sense to me, but apparently no. Kari Lake wants the governorship essentially just handed to her. And they want to call millennials entitled. You think that you're entitled for not only a redo of an election, but just to just get your the governorship, the job, just literally handed to you on a silver platter. What is this? Yeah, no, I know. Oh, I would have been governor if it wasn't for those pesky voters. Come on. Look, overall, the court ruled that 6 out of her 7 claims had already been properly dismissed by lower courts, meaning they were already adjudicated. The evidence was presented, and, it was examined and then ruled on. And it turns out they had no merit. The claims she had that she was making had no merit because there was no evidence behind them to prove her case. In fact, Chief Justice Robert Brutinel said Lake's challenges were, quote, insufficient to warrant the requested relief under Arizona or federal law. So now I said that there were 7, things that she had brought to the court, whereas 6 of them were dismissed. There is one that gives her a slight bit of hope, or I should say a little bit of hopium. But really, at the end of the day, it still ends up being copium. So let me get to the details of that. Now, the 6th claim dealt with the insufficient ballot signature verification, and that was sent back to a lower court judge to review. It says, quote, if Lake can prove votes were affected in sufficient numbers to alter the outcome of the election, based on a competent mathematical basis to conclude that the outcome would plausibly have been different, not simply an untethered assertion of uncertainty, otherwise it was dismissed properly. So basically they're saying, look, if you have evidence that the votes were affected by this, signature verification, then we'd be more than happy to go and have the lower court that dismissed it review. If you basically put up or shut up, okay? You got the evidence. You claim that you have the evidence. Okay, we're going to give you another shot at that. Go and present the evidence. Now, of course, like Donald Trump, like Mike Lindell, Kari Lake basically wants us to
just forget about the evidence.
What evidence? Evidence. It's all around you. The fact that I am not governor right now, that should be evidence enough for you to, just hand that seat over to me. That's it. That's all she wants because, again, she doesn't have any evidence of that. And by the way, that said, signature verification. So, look, do I think her case has any sort of merit, any sort of chance of getting through? No, not whatsoever. She doesn't have any evidence to prove her case. That said, right, signature verification also proves nothing. Why? Because it's pretty obvious. People's signatures throughout their lives change. Ooh, I know. No one writes the exact same way their entire lives. signature verification also has disproportionate impacts on the elderly and disabled who, whose signatures undergo the most change throughout their lives and are not consistent. Other people that are impacted by this, according to the ACLU, women whose names change after they're married, okay, and whose new signatures, might not match what's on county records. You also have transgender people who have changed their name. And so what this is essentially a way to disenfranchise groups that are already on the margins, that are most susceptible to being disenfranchised from the vote. That's it. This is all, by the way, in order to solve what is basically an imaginary problem. It's not a real problem. There's not instances of massive amounts of in-person voter fraud. It's just, there's just, again, no evidence to back that up. If anything, there is an issue with not enough voters showing up, voter apathy. So we don't have enough people that show up to vote. You're going to make an argument that, again, we can look at the historical trends, right? We can look at the percentage of voters, of eligible voters, that do not vote, that decide to stay home, or, by the way, are not able to get to the polls on election day, which is a Tuesday. People got to work. People got families. People can afford childcare. People have many reasons not to be able to vote in person, or some, again, just are not interested in being in the political process. Okay? You've got that going on, but yet you have these people that sit there and want to claim that, no, you don't understand. There are people that are so motivated to vote that they're going to do massive amounts of fraud. Now, I'm not saying that that doesn't exist. It happens. It's just an infinitesimally small amount. And in some of the cases that we've talked about before in the show, a lot of that is generally has been specifically Trump supporters in the last couple of elections voting illegally, using dead people, etc. But again, that's not always the case. And even when it's not the case of a right-winger trying to, quote, prove voter fraud happening by actually doing it, or whatever their demented reasons that they come up with, it just doesn't happen enough to warrant all the focus on voter fraud. And that's just it. And so, look, at the end of the day, bottom line, Kari Lake is a sore loser. Kari Lake has latched on to an insane conspiracy theory because she cannot handle the fact that she lost the election. She has had numerous, chances to present the evidence in a court of law in her hearings, and has failed to do so.